true wife. And the award for book that mentions nips the most time in the history of literally ever goes to The Pairing. I want to be reading this on Kindle so badly just to see what other people highlighted the most.
The dedication is just for pleasure, which is kind of funny. Got a cute map. This is Theo and this is Kit in my head, and I'm pretty sure I have it right, but I've been known to mess that up with covers and then be stuck the entire book flipping and flopping back and forth on which rendition of character I think is who. I've finally gotten to the point where they have made their body count competition pact, and I am so thrilled that we didn't spend a really big chunk of the book getting to the fact that they're just inevitably going to wind up together again. I don't hate a slow burn, but I hate spending too much time on being enemies. And I think we're coming around really nicely and smoothly and relatively quickly to the fact that, like, this is just gonna get really flirty. We are having so many different things to eat that I don't even know what to begin to picture for most of them. I'm assuming that it is a lot of like cheeses and pastries and whatnot. Oh my gosh, the wine names in this book, I have no idea what they're talking about, so that's kind of funny. It's like a section of this book is literally, but also in terms of niche interest, in a completely different language than what I know. But so far, 84 pages in, Casey McQuiston strikes again, because not only are the characters funny, but the author and the writing is funny. So you're not waiting for somebody to crack a joke for the book to be humorous, and I eat that up. Like, it makes me turn pages so fast, and that is exactly what I was expecting to get into with this. I'm having a really, really great time with the amount of androgyny in this book. I don't know that I've ever really read not only an androgynous main character, but kind of the duo. That, in my head, they're both very, very, very androgynous. And we know that Theo likes that label, but then we also just keep having them mirror each other, so in my head. And I mean, like, look at this. Like, the only difference really, like, these are very similar humans, I think.
Okay, this. Every time I lost my keys or forgot a promise, I missed Kit. Living with Kit was like living in a pixie nest. Every night, I'd find my phone charger relocated to my nightstand and my water bottle beside it, refilled at the precise temperature I liked. Dates circled themselves on the calendar, fresh flowers appeared whenever the old ones wilted, and no matter how carelessly I unloaded the dishwasher, when I checked the back of the utensil drawer, the measuring spoons were always there. I loved and resented how good he was at the parts of life I was worst at, and once he was gone, I let resentment win. I made my love into a power drill and built a life I could keep in order myself, because you can't miss something you don't need anymore. But every so often, after an 8-hour shift and an all-night gig, I'll stumble home to a pile of dishes and think, Kit would take better care of me than this. And for a second, he'll be there, putting the cereal bowls away, waiting up with a book, kissing the tension from my shoulders, picking up my slack. Just get together! Okay, Kit and Theo just found Paloma at her apartment above the bakery that they bought the cookies from. And Paloma mentions that the woman who bakes all the pastries in the bakery is like 1,000 years old. She has nobody to pass the bakery down to, and so they're worried that the bakery eventually will no longer exist. But that follows a scene in which both Kit and Theo talk about how much they love this town that they're in. So I'm kind of wondering, just wondering, it seems kind of deliberate. So if we don't end up back in this town, I'll be a little surprised. This is the cutest paperback probably on my entire shelf, and I just don't want to hurt it. But like, when I read my books, I go like this. That was my business card. I go like this, and I hold them usually with one hand, and like, I always stress that I'm like busting the bottom seam of the spine down here, and what typically happens to me is I like start to peel the cover up down here. And so I find myself reading my books like an absolute weirdo. Like, I will start reading them like this in my head to think that I could possibly like balance out the stress that I'm causing down here. So we've hit the classic point in any rom-com where there's only one bed, and we have to figure out how we as adults are going to overcome this massive, unexpected hurdle. Oh, I'm officially halfway. And the, sequence of yacht, peach, foghorn, change in perspective from Theo to Kit is kind of mind-blowing. I had completely just settled with the fact that this whole book was going to be from Theo's POV. And it was such a sweet surprise to switch to Kit. And not that I needed any motivation to, keep reading or gain momentum, but, I didn't even know I needed this. And I'm really, really excited to hear from Kit after we just got 200 pages of, falling in love with Kit, you know what I mean? So I just read Kit's the beginning and the end, and I want to go back and read Theo's beginning and end. I think it would be neat, a little refresh. But something tells me that it's kind of unfair that Theo has to introduce Kit, you know what I mean? I think this Kit half of the book is gonna be somehow better than the Theo half of the book. I mean, I don't know. I just think when you already have this much time to really get to know a character, but through somebody else's eyes, and then you get to hear from that character, that's a one-up from the reverse. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see this other side of Theo. I just finished the Florence chapter, which I think I've got, 130 or so more pages left. And that was the sweetest, most heartwarming thing that I think Casey McQuiston could have possibly slipped into the chaos of them coming together with all of their rules and all of their hesitations and inability to be honest with not only each other but themselves. And hearing Kit leave behind feelings of insecurity and just stare at Venus and see Theo like that was just so smoothly written after all of this very, very, very heated content. It also hit me in this chapter that a really, really big reason this book feels so good and fun to read is it is like being on vacation and not having to worry about being queer. When we travel, we're so guarded, and rightfully so, and here you just get to dive into this ultimate tour of all of these gorgeous places described by characters who really, really appreciate them and are so unapologetically themselves and, dare I say, with one another, that is my favorite thing about this book. And it took a while for me to recognize that that's kind of what I was so in awe of, but top notch. Very, very good. Less than 60 pages left, so I'm just going to tuck in and finish it. I think that this is, maybe I've already said it, and I'll just keep saying it, an absolute home run by Casey McQuiston. This has everything I loved about One Last Stop and Red, White, and Royal Blue in one go, and then it is formatted in such a way that is fun all over again. Each chapter is a completely new adventure, and you get to learn very effortlessly so many more things about each of the two characters. I think that the split in the middle where it switches point of view between Theo and Kit is brilliant. I think I was right in that Kit is my favorite of the two main characters,
but I just don't know how you could follow being explained so beautifully and then not come out on top, you know? I didn't feel like I was in better hands on either half of the book. I just think I identified with Kit a little bit more. I am obsessed with the way that Casey McQuiston tackled pronouns for this. I think it's something that I've never really read before. Solid example of how much you can just call somebody by their name. Like the whole first Theo half, you don't even need to know. And then you kind of understand that Theo needs to address this with Kit. And then you get the explanation, which isn't even an explanation, it's more of an understanding. And then you have Kit's chapter to just really cement it, where Kit is just engaged and intentional and understands what this means to Theo. And then you also get to learn a new side of this person that Theo set up so beautifully. Oh my gosh, so good. And then I would also say every single side character, like, I want a story about everybody else on the tour. I want a story about the siblings. I want the backstory. Actually, side note, hearing about the backstory really had like Aristotle and Dante vibes to me. I don't know if it just, every time they talked about being kids, it mentioned like the desert and then like the swimming, and very, very reminiscent of Aristotle and Dante for me. And then, like, Casey did it in the end, where I really, really thought for a second they were gonna part ways. I was like, no, I was so sure that they were gonna end back up with Paloma and they were gonna open their thing, and the pages, they were just getting fewer and fewer pages, and I was like, I'm not a deep enough person to understand the point in them not ending up together. And I've enjoyed this book so much so that if Casey McQuiston makes them go their separate ways to their separate countries, then I might have to riot, especially because I've been doing a reading vlog for this whole thing. So if I've been stoked the entire time and then it ends this way, and I have to get on here and be disappointed about the ending, and like right when I'm panicking about that, I realize it's gonna be okay. And I think it's really funny how we almost had like a chase you down at the airport and profess your undying love scene, and then it got Uno reversed by Theo being at the door. So good. Like, Casey McQuiston really keeps you on your toes with this one. But I will say that reading that part where they've like decided to go their separate ways felt specifically like the movie scene of Red, White, and Royal Blue, where like they're at the cabin and they're swimming and they're having a good time, and then all of a sudden one of them just leaves and you're like, ugh, this has to happen, but like, can't we just skip this part? Like, that's how it kind of felt, where I was just questioning my entire existence. And to see everybody that you learned so much about come together in the end, whether it be in person for their family and friend tasting of their restaurant, or have sent a gift that was meaningful from a certain part of the journey, it was so nicely wrapped up. In the way that this cover is absolutely flawless, and the design of this book, of everything about, like, I think I've talked about this, but like this little crease in the front makes such a good reading experience because you're not worried about the cover or whatever. Like, everything is thought out with the design of this book, and reading it is exactly the same. Oh my gosh. And then you get to the end and you get to Casey McQuiston's acknowledgements, and it mentions how much research was poured into this book, and there's a shout out at the end that's very cute. Reader, I hope you finish this book with a desire to have a second helping of something delicious. Try something you can't pronounce on a menu and make the most indulgent choice. Settle for nothing less than the most. That's so good. Like, Casey McQuiston should be so proud of this. And if we ever get it on screen, it's gonna do really cool things. I really am eager to know who people would like headcanon cast as Theo and Kit in like a movie or a show or whatever. So bye, I gotta go Google some things.